How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly non-spoiler comic book review show. We got a lot of books to get through, so let's go ahead and get started right now with the big two, as we always do. We're going to go ahead and throw our grading scale up. How this works is, as I bring a book on and start talking about it, I'm going to put the cover of that book on the grading scale so you can see how they all stack up against each other. Let's jump over to the big two, starting with Marvel. We're going to start with Daredevil issue number 10 from Chip Zdarsky. Great Daredevil run so far. I wouldn't say it's as good as the Punisher run, and the only reason why I'm comparing those two right now is because they have a common thread, right? We have Daredevil kind of coming into his own, getting this mystical power, exploring what these different things mean. He's got an army behind him right now. He's going overseas, and he's essentially taking on the Hand, and he's become the Fist, and so he's working with Elektra and Stick, and he's got some villains that he busted out of like Blackgate or whatever, and they're right now taking the battle to Punisher, to the Hand, to see if they can kind of combat this ancient evil, right? And so they're trying to build their ranks up right now, but there's some betrayal, some double crossing, some misinterpretations of the lore of the whatever it is they're trying to follow. They have this ancient book they're trying to work their way through, trying to adopt some of the rituals, things like that. That's giving them these powers. They've seen some good results, but was it a trick? Was it a betrayal? That part of it is a little bit elusive to me. We covered this betrayal in a previous issue, and it's playing out inside of here. Very similarly to to Punisher, rather, we have some of the other heroes witnessing what's going on in this part of the world. They can't let Daredevil and Punisher get away with all this stuff because they're both doing some shady stuff, right? And so they're attacking them both in each of these issues. So I think it's cool to see how they deal with all that. We had a really cool Spider-Man moment with Daredevil in here. A lot of history behind these characters. Amazing artwork. So I would say that this book is not quite as clear and as easy to follow and is like, I don't know, it has a different sense than Punisher does, but it's in the same vein. And if you want to get that complete picture, you got to read both. But Daredevil number 10, not a bad read. Some things need to be a little bit more clear, I think, though. Then we're going to go over into Sins of Sinister Dominion issue number 1. Got that Alex Ross timeless variant with Apocalypse on here. So if you've been following the Sins of Sinister event, if you've been reading things like Storm Brotherhood of Mutants, if you've been reading Nightcrawlers, Immoral X-Men, all those little spin-offs and things like that, then you're going to be neck deep inside the Sins of Sinister stuff right here. But unfortunately, this is required reading, I would say, to get the full picture. $6 book. I don't know if that's just the Alex Ross ones, but it is extra size, so you do have that going for you. But this is a gigantic explainer issue. Basically, we have tons of backstory between our Sinister. We have Mother Righteous in here. Mother Righteous's plan to kind of take control. Maybe Sinister was not handling the situation well enough. Maybe he was ready to activate another Moira, reset the timeline, things like that, but never really got the chance to. And so we're in this world right now where I think Mother Righteous's plan is starting to unfold or go forward, and Destiny is still not really useful because there's a lot of variables kind of going in different directions right now. And I think it's very interesting where this series is going to go. The whole main event is a little bit, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm enjoying it, but it did pique my interest after reading this book. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Maybe I'll stay away from some of the tie-ins and things like that, and maybe just read some of the main books if there is such a thing, and we'll go from there. What are you guys thinking about the Sinister event overall, knowing that we're going to get a lot more throughout the summer coming up? All right, we got a Star Wars book. We have Darth Vader, black, white, and red. I got that awesome variant cover because it reminds me of New Hope when he's kind of getting in there and maybe entering the ship for the first time. We saw that at the end of Rogue One, which I thought was a really cool scene, him in that hallway, kind of taking on all those poor guys. But in typical black, white, and X fashion, we have a few different stories in here, and they were okay. Darth Vader's going through here and just wrecking shop, and most of these here, we had this weird trippy dream sequence in one of them, which was with great art. So I didn't mind that, but it's like, I don't know, these kinds of books, I tend to flip through them really quickly, and they're $5 books, and I feel like, when I get to the end of them. So, I mean, visually, yeah, they're cool. They're awesome, but like, at the end of the day, did I really get $5 worth out of this book? Probably not. So I tend to skip these, but the cover was just so cool, and I haven't checked in on one of these in a long time, and I was quickly reminded why I don't buy these books necessarily. So black, white, and red, if you're a huge Darth Vader fan, sure, you can get this one, but if you're not, probably a skip. All right, we have Thor issue number 33 from Grownback, and we have Gideon on the art here as well, Juan Gideon. So I've noticed some of the art's been shifting here and there, and you can definitely tell inside of this book it's very different than some of the other Nick Klein stuff, and then I think Gideon was on it previously as well. But we have Doom in here, so I was super excited to get Doom in here. He's actually capturing Hela. He's using some magic, of course, that he doesn't understand to rule the world, right? Make it in his image. So nothing we really haven't seen before, and Thor's just trying to investigate what exactly is going on. We do have a little altercation, I guess, in here, although it was pretty short-lived, and I didn't really understand exactly what was going on. There's some Thanos in here too, which was interesting, and so I'm more interested about the Thanos part of the story, which is what we're evolving into, than I was about the Doom part. And I'm just like, I need to go back and like make all those connections, because I was very confused about what was actually going on here. And what was Doom up to? What was a stone he was trying to get? What was Hela's purpose? I'm not entirely sure. So I got to go back. The storytelling is a little bit clunky in here, I think. The art, I like it better when Nick Klein's on here, but we get some Thanos action. And, I don't know. I'm kind of losing it on Thor, to be honest with you. It kind of faded away after Donny Cates was off of it. So are you guys reading this, and are you still enjoying it? And what did you think about this issue? All right, we're going to hop over to DC Comics, starting with Detective Comics 1071 from Ron V. First off, this is probably one of the best covers I've seen all year. And these detective covers, man, they are so good, especially on these B covers. And they're $6, card stock though. And it's looking really good. So if you're into Ram V's writing style, if you like his historical writings of like foreign lands and betrayals and sabotage and things like that, I think you're really going to dig this book, because it actually tells the origin story of Ra's al Ghul in a way that I've never heard before. Some of the alliances he's broken, some of the promises, things like that. There's some mystical things they're searching for in a desert, these different clans and whatnot, and they experience what that mystical property is, and it becomes relevant in modern time, and we're going to explore how so in the coming issues. But if you remember, we have this big power struggle in Gotham right now, and so Bruce and the Bat family are trying to investigate that. They're splitting up right now, trying to find some evidence, trying to tackle this before essentially the whole city gets brainwashed in this way that it's never been before. And so what I think is really cool is how they tie the current events into historical events, and Talia tells Bruce, aka Batman, this legend, right, this old tale, and it's going to become really relevant in the coming issues, I believe. So this has been a really fun book, really deep in mythology, like foreign mythology. I think that's great how they're tying it into Gotham, into the current run. So if you're into Ram V, if you're into that kind of style writing, you like Batman, give this a shot. All right, the next DC book we have this week is Unstoppable Doom Patrol issue number 2. I've never read Doom Patrol before. I did watch the first season of the show when it came out a few years ago, written by Dennis Culver and Chris Burnham on the art. And this is a cool book because it's a good introduction to the Doom Patrol. If you'd never read anything from them, I think you're going to be fine with issue number 1 and then jumping into issue number 2. The team is a very organic team. There's lots of cool personalities and things going on. So if you're not, again, familiar with that, they catch you up pretty quickly in issue number 1 because the whole team is attacking this big threat that they're chasing down inside of Gotham. And then in the second issue here, it gets a little bit more intimate and actually gets down into the base of the operations. And we get to kind of have these character moments in here, which I think are pretty special. And there's a little bit of a bait and switch, infiltration, overarching plot in this issue here. And we get to realize how badass our villain is inside of this book and the lengths that they'll go to figure out what they want to figure out. So I think the art was handled really well. I like the compositions in here too when they're doing these like cross sections of the base whenever it's showing different people. So this book was really fun. If you're shying away from this because it's Doom Patrol and you think it might not be anything cool or you have no experience with it, now's your time to jump in because this is something really awesome. And check out the show too. It was a lot of fun. All right, that's it for the big 2, although we have some digital ones at the end, so stay tuned for that. We have Behold Behemoth from Boom Studios, issue number 5 from Tate Bromble. And I've been loving this series so far. This one was very action-packed. It definitely gave us more context on the relationship of our main characters. You know, we have our handler and we have our behemoth, and those two are basically at odds with each other, and there's really like no way out of this that they can see where there's not some kind of a sacrifice or something like that involved. So I think that the first 4 issues were a little bit more satisfying, I think, for me than this issue right here, because I can kind of see the writing on the wall and see where this issue is going to go or where the series is going to go. And I don't exactly know, all the details about what's going to happen and things like that, but I can imagine, I think. And I like the mystery that we had in the first few issues, and now that we're kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit, it's not quite playing out as much as well as I wanted it to, but it's still a great visual treat. There's a lot of cool lore, mythology, things like that inside of here. I like the relationships with the characters, things like that. But I kind of like the human moments, the moments where they're kind of hanging out together and they're conversing. Some of the flashbacks are really cool too, but it didn't, I don't know, those were in here, but they didn't hit me as much as the previous issues. I still like the series a lot. Can't wait to see where it goes. But Behold Behemoth a little bit down for me, even though it was full of action. It's really weird. I don't know. But let me know if you read it and what you thought. All right, going over to IDW, we have issue 3 of The Last Ronin, Lost Years. Not a bad book. It's pretty interesting. It's a prequel to The Last Ronin, so you can read Last Ronin, get into this. That's how I would approach it. I wouldn't approach it the other way around, reading this first and getting into Last Ronin. Where are we right now, though? We're still traversing the countryside, still trying to find our main bad guy that tormented us and was started wrecking town and killing all these innocent people. So we still have our last Ronin here, haunted by the ghosts of his brothers trying to get him to his next location. But something tragic happens in here. He actually gets some kind of radiation poisoning, becomes blind, very dependent upon anybody that can give him help. He actually gets introduced to this nearby clan who just coincidentally is like an enemy of my enemy, right? And so they team up. He learns a lot of lessons. He learns how to fight while being blind, things like that, right? We're training, but of course, in classic, fairly predictable fashion, tragedy strikes yet again, and we are basically revved back up to fulfill our ultimate mission right now. But things get a little out of hand at the very end of this issue, so we're in a bad place at the end here. Is it a good story? I think it's a pretty good story. I like the commentary of the Ghost Brothers, things like that. And yeah, I mean, like, I just like reading some Turtle books right now, so this is pretty cool. What'd you guys think? All right, we have Scott Snyder's Noctare issue number 13. So glad Noctare is back in my life. Very, very classic writing style for Scott Snyder, and it's very well drawn by Tony S. Daniel. And I'll show you some pages as we get into this book. But our favorite weirdo, ultra-violent villain Blacktop Bill is back in here with a little bit of an upgrade of his powers. They're actually about to enter into Eros, basically Eden, where they need to be. It's a place covered in complete light, and they had this formula that's going to help save the world, things like that. And so they're trying to traverse the land, trying to get to from wherever they are to this ultimate place where they can upload essentially this code, and it's going to basically save the world. And so here we are. But of course, we are stopped by some very familiar faces and things like that. And we learn a little bit more about the lore of this big PM right here, and we get a glimpse of the people that we're trying to get to at the very, very end of this journey, which I thought was pretty cool. So we'll see where it goes from there. Very classic. If you like Noctara, you're going to love this issue right here. Well, let me know what you thought. All right, The Ambassadors, issue number 3 from Mark Millar. This book is absolutely amazing as well. I really enjoyed issue number 1 with Frank Quietly. I really enjoyed issue number 2 as well. Maybe not so much, but it was still fun. The art shift really got me. But the concept behind the book is really cool. This one right here was like, it kind of pulls at your heartstrings a little bit because it's featuring these two people here, this mom and this child, single mom situation. And this child's going down a pretty dangerous path. He's like going down this anarchist path in a way. He's a little bit violent. People are finding inappropriate stuff like in his room and things like that, or he's talking about some stuff he shouldn't be talking about. And his relationship with his mom is essentially breaking right now. And his mom's doing everything she can do to kind of mend that, to bring him back in. And she actually gets chosen and picked to be Miss Paris, or the representative from Paris, into the ambassador program. But she actually convinces the people to let her son be somewhat of a sidekick for her. And I thought that was really cool to bring him into the mix. And I just love the way that they showed off the like emotion when this happens. It's beautiful art. Absolutely love that. And this issue is really something special. I like this one a lot. There's a lot of other things in here that'll let you explore little secrets and things like that, explorations of power and some things that'll help do some world building. So I'll let you explore that. Very cool issue. Probably my favorite issue so far of the 3. You got to be checking out Ambassadors. I think it's going to build into something really cool, and I want to be a part of it. All right, next book is World Tree issue number 1 from an all-star cast, including James Tynion. We have Blanco on the art as well, Aditya Bidikar, and we have Jordi Belair as well. So dang, what a great creative team. And I got the foil variant right here, Substack exclusive, which I absolutely love. And I got the Virgin variant gold foil as well. I can't believe it. It's so awesome. But this is a really cool book. It was delayed, actually a misprint a few weeks ago, re-released, and you can tell it's a misprint if you have a practically black bottom and you can't see like the rug and stuff. So if you have that print, you shouldn't. So we're going to go into this book here. What is it about, man? It's actually a little hard to explain at this point, but essentially I'm kind of combining like Red Room into the Matrix a little bit. And so you have this situation where these guys discovered something in like the undernet, which is like below the dark web, and they were able to like isolate it and destroy it before it really got out and caused a lot of havoc. But some part of it survived and it's been thriving this whole time, and it essentially drives you mad. And you start going on this killing spree, and we see what the effects of that are inside of this book in a very creative way. This guy that's actually abusing this power right now is woven into this story right here with another character and his fiance or something like that, his girlfriend. And it's a pretty cool, like, shocking moment when you realize everything that's going on in here. And again, the art is, I can't even show you half this book. The art is really interesting, and I'm digging it a lot. All the pages I can show you are nothing like super special, just some, you know, typical multi-panel spreads with some faces, talking heads, things like that. But believe me, when the action kicks off, it is well worth it and very interesting. This has potential to be something really cool. So maybe you should keep your eye on it, see what's going on with it. Pick up the first issue if it's something you're into. Maybe get the second one, and we'll just kind of go from there. Or it could fizzle out in 5, 6, 7, 8 issues. You never know. But World Tree so far, really cool. Check it out. All right, we have Indigo Children issue number 2. Man, this is awesome, from Kurt Pines and Rockwell White. This book was actually really amazing. I liked issue number 1 because it was a combination of like, I don't know, some kind of superpowered kids were out there performing some stuff. There was an investigation, some kind of journalist going out, risking his life to find the truth. And he ran into his guy at the very end. And we have a little bit, maybe, of a continuation in this story here. Issue number 2 is exploring this guy right here, who's basically this architect, and he has this ability in his mind. He has this ability to actually build building blocks out of thin air, and people can like traverse them and things like that. But basically, it's about him coming into his own, discovering his powers. He sees everything kind of like Neo, where you see the Matrix and everything, but he sees things as architectural drawings, things like that. And he's thinking he's going insane his entire life. He's been like coached or mentored in this direction for so long, and he's finally snapping, and that's when his powers really mature, and he gets introduced to some of the other Indigo Children. And I think it's a really interesting premise, and I think it's going to build into something really fun as well. Very reminiscent to the Ambassadors. It's like kind of a coincidence that both these books exist at the same time, but they're so different, yet they're kind of the same. And I'm digging both of them. So check out Indigo Children. It's really cool. Next book we're going to go over, which came out a little while ago, but I just got my copy, is 8 Billion Genies, issue number 8. And man, this book I thought was spectacular. And now I've had a few conversations with some people about the ending of this book, and some people think it wasn't as impactful or wasn't exactly the ending they were anticipating. But then I started thinking about how it could have ended, and I just don't know any other way you could have done it. Now, similar to the other issues, this is actually 800 years in the future, so quite a long way from where we started. And it starts with a conversation between these like last couple of genies that are alive right now. We have a population of 360 million, but we only have 2 genies left. And so a lot of people have died over the you know, centuries, things like that. But we get pretty much an info dump on the first couple of pages about what actually happens when you're the last genie, when you're the last genie that's tied to somebody on Earth. You know, what does that mean? Has that ever happened before? We get a big giant info dump on here about that. Now, was it too much information for this one single issue? Probably. It was probably too much information, but we've had jam-packed issues previously, and he has a lot of story to tell in 8 issues, and maybe we could have squeezed this into the other issues a little bit so it wasn't so jarring up front. But with that said, I was very satisfied to learn some of the new things that we didn't know before, specifically related to the hint that they dropped about the bartender at the beginning of the story, because we knew that he was either a genie or something like that in the past. He had some familiarity with what's going on right now. This is basically his origin story in this last issue, and I won't exactly give away everything about this, because they do talk about how they break the cycle, because this is something that's happened over and over again, meaning whenever the population gets to 8 billion, everybody gets a genie and essentially wipes everybody out. Everybody wipes each other out over enough time, they reset the clock and everything, and then they build back up to 8 billion people again, and it's happened over and over and over again. And they explain all that, and I think a pretty succinct way in here, but there's a way to stop this cycle, and they explored it in here as well. And I thought it was pretty cool. I actually liked it a lot. It made sense to me. They were telling the story the whole time, and when I realized what the end was all about, I said, yeah, I kind of believe that. So 8 billion Genies, I think it's a great run. I love the conclusion of this. Was it super ultra strong? Was the conclusion super strong? No, but I don't know where else it would have gone to be satisfying. You know what I mean? So very cool. Highly recommended. Check out 8 billion Genies in trade if you haven't. All right, Donnie Cates on Vanish issue number 6. And I knew this was going to happen. Issue number 5 was my favorite issue. And we get into 6 and it got knocked back down. So, Vanish, I think there's only one more issue in this first arc, and I'm probably going to drop it at that point. Because it just feels, I just feel too bad for the main character. He's sitting around and he's kind of moping. He's reminiscing in this failed relationship right now. He's getting his ass kicked by all these people, but overcomes this. And then he, gets back home and he's basically guilt tripped to almost death by the people in his life that he loves and wants to maintain in his life right now. And I don't know. It feels too depressing. You know what I mean? I want more action in here. This issue had probably the least amount of action than anything. It was basically him just going on this temper tantrum right now with this girl that he's in love with at the moment. And it just didn't do a whole lot for me at all. So I liked issue number 1. I liked issue number 5. I think there's only one more issue left in this first arc. And I'm probably going to bounce out. What do you guys think of this if you're reading it? All right, next book we got is Lovesick issue number 7, the conclusion of Lovesick. So this was an interesting read. Did it end the way I thought it was going to end? No, absolutely not. And in fact, I was a little bit confused about the ending as well. But basically, the last several issues has been an exploration of the relationship between Domino and this guy that's been essentially dominating her in the early years. And so it's her rise to fame in her own version of this Red Room, rebelling against this other society of like sadistic, like slave-owning cannibals kind of a thing. And it's really weird. She wanted to be a part of this culture, but then she quickly basically got that desire beaten out of her in a way, mentally, and decided to go off on her own and create her own thing and be her own goddess in a way. And so, we see this character develop over time. We see this dependency that she had that she essentially grew out of towards the end of the story. And it's extremely violent, extremely gory, extremely over-sexualized. So if you're into that kind of stuff, this might be a book for you. The ending didn't land it for me, unfortunately. I think the journey was okay. It had highs and lows, but the ending just didn't land it for me personally. But I know a lot of people out there reading this book right now, and they loved it, so you might want to check it out. All right, we have Black Cloak issue number 4 from Kelly Thompson. Very interesting book, sci-fi, fantasy, detective, royal family murder, trying to investigate, see what's going on. Very simple, very beautiful, clean line work. Awesome color palette in here too. It's got like this pastel look to it, which I think is really something to look at. Our main character here inadvertently got on the suspect list in this royal murder, and she's trying to investigate it. And we actually get a little bit of an info dump on her history with the royal family, which I think is cool because she was actually destined to marry this prince that was murdered. And we get some backstory on exactly why she was exiled from the family, and it's actually a pretty decent reason. And of course, we get a great shocker at the end, introducing a new character we haven't seen before. I just like the way that this book is handling this investigation so far. I like the characters. It has like this emotion behind it. It has this levity between the two detectives, which I really enjoy. The coloring is great. The art is something special. I really want this book to do well because I'm so excited for it every time it comes out. Let me know if you're reading it and what you guys think. All right, next book we got is Green Arrow issue number 1, part of that Dawn of DC run right now. And I like this book so much. So many people have said that they've loved this book, and just reading other people's comments and reviews and everything. So we went ahead and got into this one as well. Continuation of Dark Crisis, so you have to read that to really understand the opening of this book right here. Ollie's in a place he's never been before in this weird world, very like technologically advanced, lots of like weird fauna and stuff growing around. He's traversing that right now, but we have more of the other parts of the family, his family essentially, like Roy Hopper and Connor Hawke, and we have Black Canary as well, going around trying to do whatever they can do to kind of keep the peace in their town. And there's a very touching moment with I believe that her name is Cheshire, if I'm not mistaken. And there's some revelations that we explore inside of there that I don't want to spoil for you. You longtime Green Arrow fans are probably going to really appreciate some of the reunions that are inside of this book and some of the heart behind it. And even if you're not, I think you're really going to dig it either way, because I certainly did, and I have no experience with these characters, really. So the artwork in here is really awesome as well. I did like that. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of heart in here, and there's this awesome moment in here where we basically have to survive in this like Jumanji type environment, I call it. And I think it's really awesome to see these characters in these situations where they have to adapt or die. And I was totally digging that. So very excited for Green Arrow. Never thought I would say that. Issue number 1, very strong. Definitely check it out. But guys, that will do it for me this week. I hope you appreciated that video. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button and give me a like down below. And while you're down there, let me know what your favorite books of the week were. But I appreciate you watching the video again. I will see you all down below in the comments.